All right, everybody, we know how to make ships fly, but how do we make them shoot? Okay, let's check it out. So here we have our ship, and in our last video, we already talked about how to make them fly. We talked about how to make them fly in a bunch of different ways, like with the land speeder. Oh, how'd that get there? That's new. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But in terms of this current video, we're going to talk about how to make the ships shoot, just like you saw. Also, how to make them register damage. So look, see, you hear that sound. And not only that, but you can see in here, look at that. 8 out of 10, you see it actually lost health. You keep doing that, and it starts to smoke, it starts to register damage. So that's all fun, that's all useful for a bunch of different games. How do we make it do that? All right, let's go and look at the script, and then we're going to put it together. So going into our build mode, we can see that our X-Wing version 2 script has all the starting positions. As you can see, we talked about that last time. We talked about how to make it return. We're also setting our ship health variable to 10. That's what appears on the screen. We'll get into that in a second. And so, again, we went through all of this stuff. And now, here we are, past the flight to the shooting part. Okay, so this is a script that is going to be running on the ship and on the control rod. When button 1 is pressed, that's when we want it to shoot. It's an X-Wing, so it has all 4 lasers. Each one of these is a projectile that I have set as a variable. Show that in a second. So what are you going to do? You're going to play the sound, and you're going to launch all 4 at the same time. I also have a little bit of this called Droid Variable. It basically makes R2, yell a little thing once in a while. Let's just ignore that for now. But this is really it in terms of how you get it to shoot. When button 1 is pressed, and you can set this to the trigger, you could set this to whatever you want, but remember we already used the trigger for our flight. So when a button is pressed, you can control that all here, and with your projectile events, and with your grab events, and with your controller events. So it's up to you to choose when you want it to go on. Again, you can do an index trigger, button 1, button 2. I have it on button 1. And so when that happens, launch projectile. That's it. You just need to create a variable for what your projectile object is going to be here and set it. So that's all that it takes to actually shoot something. Pretty easy. And then you need to determine what happens when the projectile hits something. And it's important to remember that projectile really just fires like a packet of information. So it doesn't need to be like a gun. It's really just shooting something out, and you can determine what happens when it hits something. When it hits a static object, we just want it to make a sound. We want it to have a visual effect like a puff. And so that's what we have here. That's all that happens. So you're going to take the puff, which is going to be a particle effect. That's going to be something that you can pull out here. See, that's it. That's all it is. It's just this kind of effect. We're going to move this effect. Hold on, let me delete that. We are going to move that effect to the position of where that static object was hit, move that effect there, and play a visual effect on it. And we're going to do the same with the sound. We're going to move the sound, and you can choose whatever you want it to be. There's the one that I believe is called Weapon Explosion. You're going to move it to that position and play on the sound. So that's it for static objects. When it comes to an interactive object, this is when stuff gets really interesting, because an interactive object is something that, say, a script is running on. So you can use the projectile launcher to send events to other objects. And if they are running a script that knows what to do with that event, then it will respond accordingly. And that's exactly what I have done here. So, and you can actually, it knows what object it is because you can put it right there. So you have the exact same thing as with the static objects, where you're going to move the smoke puff there. You're going to move the sound there. But in addition, you are going to send an event, and in this case, it's event projectile hit object, to that object. And now, so then whenever you have a script for another object, you can tell it that when projectile hit object is received, it can do something. And so I've done that on the X-Wing itself. That is what's going to determine how it's going to act. And so it's going to act in a couple different ways. It's going to affect its health, and it's going to eventually actually blow the whole thing up and send the return events that we created in our last video and have it respawn at the start. So this script is actually pretty simple. As you can see, it's only about a dozen or so lines, and this is going to control that entire health display and all those cool effects. So what happens when projectile hit object is received? Well, we created a number variable for ship health. You can see that right here in our variables tab. And you remember we set this all the way up at the beginning. We set ship health to 10. You can set it to whatever you want, but 10 seemed pretty good. So coming back, when projectile hit object is received, we're going to set ship health to ship health -1. Pretty simple. Every shot is going to take away 1 health. And then we are going to display ship health on health display. So health display is another variable that we created here. And we defined that variable as a text object that's just running here. This out of 10, this one I believe is static, but this is just one little text object that is what's connected to that health display variable. So it's always going to show. It's always going to show here. I also added an alarm sound just because it sounds cool. You heard that earlier. It just makes everything feel a little bit more exciting and a little bit more scary. And then I went the extra mile and added that damage smoke effect. That was, again, pretty simple. So this ship health is now going to be a defined number, right? And so if that number is less than or equal to 3, again, you can set this to whatever you want. I play visual effects on damage smoke. So damage smoke is yet another variable. It's an object variable that I created here and basically connected it to this particle right here, this particle box. And so if ship health falls below 3, you're going to play that effect. Now, if ship health falls to 0, so if it's equal to or less than 0, right, if it takes too many hits and you get to negative value, what are you going to do? You're going to reset everything. You're going to make sure you stop that visual effects and then simply send those 2 return scripts that we created earlier. And that's it. It's actually what's so cool about this is that with this when projectile hit object is received event, it will connect to events not only on the ship or on something running this exact same script. Anything that's running a script with a projectile hit object event will be able to send projectile hit events here. It's exactly what I showed just a moment ago, where you have this gun. This gun is obviously not running my X-Wing script, but it is. Here, actually, let me show you. But the gun is running a separate script that also says when projectile hits an interactive object, send projectile hit event to that object. Oh, excuse me. And so because of that, you're going to have the X-Wing being able to read that event. And you can do this for literally anything you create, and so that everything can react in its own interesting and unique way when it receives a hit event from something with a launcher. Cool. So what are these scripts actually running on? Well, within the X-Wing itself, we have, you can see right here, these 4 projectile launchers. And so this is a special gizmo that was introduced pretty recently, actually. It's right here, this projectile launcher gizmo. This is pretty great. You can set all these attributes or the behavior here. You can set the speed of the whatever's fired. You can set the gravity. I actually set the gravity on these. Here, let's just go into them. I actually set the gravity on these to be not 0. Let's just click in. Hold on. So as you can see, I set the gravity to be just 1, a little bit, so that they have this little arc. I don't know, it just makes things a little bit more exciting. Even though they're lasers, they shouldn't have gravity and it's space. It's just a little bit more fun with the gravity. Kind of, again, makes this neat arc. You can change the size of the bullet. You can change the trail length. 1, or I guess 1 meter in this case, makes it look like a laser. But if you wanted to look more like a bullet, you could set this to 0. You can also set the color. In this case, I set it to, it's red, green, blue. And so there are values here. I set it to just 1, 0, 0, which makes it red. Cool. So how do we actually put this stuff together? I should note that the script is actually running not just on the body of the X-Wing, not just on the rod, but the script is running on each of these projectile objects as well. You can see it here. That's what connects the explosion sound and the smoke sound. Important tip, don't tell the projectile launcher what it is itself, or else it'll kind of shoot the projectile twice, because the script will run each time on both on the rod and on the projectile launcher itself. Other thing to note is that you have to connect. Where is it? Our rod here. You do have to connect each projectile launcher to its, where is it? Oh my God, sorry for all these connectors. You have to tell the rod, because the rod is what you're holding when you're pressing your button 1. You have to tell the rod what each of these projectile launchers is. So that's really the only time you have to connect the object to its variable. Okay, let's just go through and see what this looks like in practice. We can connect this guy to, hold on, ready? Whoop, look at that. Remember, we made this last time. Let's just bring this back up. So let's see how you would connect a projectile launcher to the platform and the rod that we've already built. Now let's see. Let's make sure this works. From last time, I believe we can grab it. Yeah, look at that. Flies around. We let go, returns. Will it fly with us? Yay! Look at that. That's fun. But let's return again. Look at all that stuff. That's just great. Okay, back into build mode. So let's say we want to add a projectile launcher to our rudimentary little platform here. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to select this, so you can see this blue outline, because we want to bring it into the group. We're going to hit group, and this is already selected, so we're going to zoom in, and now look at that. That's a part of our group again. Well, for the first time, actually. And we're going to want to put a projectile launcher. We'll just do 1. Obviously, the X-Wing has 4. TIE Fighter has 2. The N1 has 2. We'll just do 1 for this guy. And we'll, just for fun, give ourselves some kind of visual indicator that there's an actual gun here. You could make these super elaborate. You can make them super simple. I tend to go for elaborate because I'm a crazy person. but we don't use that word here. Okay, so let's just go ahead, and I'm in snap mode. See that? So that I can get these cool snap points, make it nice and even. We are going to, there it is, snap it right to the center here. Okay, and so that's going to be the barrel of our gun. We're going to take this and we're going to put this right there. Make sure it's lined up. Actually, we can do this. Make sure it's lined up. Pull it out a little bit so it doesn't collide with itself. And that's it. That's it. That is the launcher. Here, we'll pop this open because we'll be making some connections. And that is our projectile launcher. And as I mentioned earlier, we're not going to go ahead and connect it to the platform because nothing happens on the platform when it comes to the projectile. When it comes to the projectile launcher, we're going to connect it to our rod here. So let's see. We have our projectile launcher. We're just going to see. It has actually spots for. Hold on a second. Let's move this out of the way. You see it has spots for laser 1, laser 2, laser 3, laser 4 because it's running the X-Wing script. Obviously, we only have one here. So we're going to put our projectile launcher into the slot for laser 1. Let's see if that works. All right. So we should be able to grab it. Look at that. It fires. Amazing. And that was it. So let's say now we wanted to change the behavior of this. We still have our thing open here. What would you call this? I don't know. I guess item menu. We can change the speed so we can make it go faster or slower. If you want to make it really fast, change it to 50. We can make it bigger. I don't know why we would, but we could. Let's make this 0.5, make it real big. We can, let's say, change the length to 0, so it's just shooting kind of orbs. And why don't we change the color? We'll go 0, we'll go 0, 1. Let's see what that looks like. I think that should be blue. Let's see how it changed everything. Oh my God. Look at that. It's faster. It's bigger. There's no trail on it. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. And I guess the last thing that I can show you how to do with this is, there was no sound. Nothing was really happening because we didn't attach any of the particle effects or sounds. So if you wanted to attach a sound to this, you would grab a gizmo. Actually, no, a sound gizmo. Let's find explosion. Actually, no, not explosion. Explosion is what's going to play over there. We would do, let's just say laser. What's laser going to sound like? Let's find a good one. All right, those all sound okay. Let's take laser shot 2. And it's always we're always gonna hear it, right? So we don't need to, we can just put this right into the object itself. So here, let's select this again. We'll click into the group so that the selection gets brought in. And look at that, we can just put it right here. And then we won't see it, but we will always hear it. And then, again, this is going to be running on the rod because every time you press the button, it's going to play the sound. And that sound is launcher sound. Connect that. That should be it. Oh, on this, by the way, we don't want to play on start, so make sure that's off. I generally change the volume and the pitch and the volume kind of distance. Here, let's make this a little lower. That's better. So let's see. Does that work now? Works perfectly. Amazing. All right. Anything else that would be helpful? Yes. So I said before that when it hits a static object, we're going to we want to play a sound and show that hit puff on the static object. So this is worth chatting about briefly. Let's see. Let's get our particle gizmo. Okay, that's a big poof. Fine. And let's get our sound. We'll call this explosion. Explode. Where is it? Fine. So now we have these two. Now, these two don't actually need to be connected to the, they don't need to be within the platform group because they are going to move to whatever we shoot. Remember, back here on our script, when the projectile hits an object, either a static or an interactive object, it's going to take that sound and it's going to take that effect. It's going to move it to the position of the hit, right? So, and again, those are variables, not the position, but the hit puff and the hit sound. Those are object variables that we created right here. So, because these are going to be moving, they can kind of live anywhere, and they'll only go into action when the projectile hits an object. So with these, all we really have to do is go into their properties panel. That's what it's called. Let's go into their properties. We'll turn play on start off. I don't know why they have this on by default, but we're going to turn those off, and we're just going to, again, and in this case, we want it to operate on the launcher. Now, see, I actually didn't attach the script before, and it still worked. But if you want it to function and actually send that information, you do have to attach the script here. So, in this case, let's see, where is it? Where is our hit sound, hit puff? Okay, so let's take these. The explosion, that's going to be our hit sound. Put that here. Let's take our particle effect. That's going to be the puff. We're going to put that here. Let's see if that works. Amazing. Here, let's go over here so we can see that it's hitting on the object. Shall we? Fantastic. That's it, gang. That was pretty easy. I like that we kept this video a little bit shorter. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Also, come check out this world. I've added a bunch of stuff like this cool Cad Bane hat. I've added this pod racer, which I am extremely proud of. And I've actually added a whole new world, which is pretty much my magnum opus. I just published this, but it's Tatooine mini games and exploration. I use most of this stuff there and actually created a bunch of really fun mini games like Sarlacc Pit Parkour, a Jabba the Hutt Squid Game situation, I guess more of a slug game, pod racing. Again, ton of cool stuff. So come visit it. Come to this world. Again, it's Star Wars templates. Leave a like and a selfie if you would like collaborator access. That way you can import this stuff and build your own games. Thank you so much. Really appreciate all of the interactions that I've gotten, all of the questions. This has been a really fun experience, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.